Hey y'all, it's Bart. Welcome to another episode of Soccer for Us. On this episode, we're going to be talking about some uncomfortable subjects, but we're also going to be talking about the future, looking forward to the World Cup coming up in just a month in November. I know everyone's looking forward to watching 32 teams play in the middle of a desert in November. We're all excited for that. But no, seriously, we are going to talk about the roster. We're going to talk about what U.S. fans should expect from this World Cup and try to make peace with what happened during that September friendly window. And to do that, I'm bringing on the guy who controls USMNT Corner on Twitter. That's Caleb Cook. Caleb, which was your favorite goal we scored in September?
Did we play?
Yeah, I think the youth teams played actually.
Yeah, okay.
The U20s played.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's crazy. When are we gonna have any friendlies or anything like that? Any warm-ups before the World Cup or
I think Brick Berhalter said no. The Nations League games were the last ones that we played. Yeah.
He said, I think he said we don't need it. All the MLS guys are
Yeah.
they're gonna take their 2-month vacation and then come in hot. I think is what he was saying. So
Come in hot. That's what's gonna happen. You heard it here first. Caleb Cook said we don't need no stinking MLS camp. What is Camp Pumpkin Pie?
Camp Pumpkin Pie.
We're good. We don't need it.
Camp Pumpkin Spice Latte, baby.
Yeah. That's God. Anyway, to talk seriously, we are going to discuss the roster that we think kind of where it stands right now for the World Cup for the U.S. men's national team. Obviously, we have 3 matches quickly approaching. We have a game against Wales coming up on November 21st. As we record, we're about a month away exactly from a USA-England clash in the World Cup. And then we have the final match of the tournament on the 29th against Iran. Possibly not Iran. That also is news that is breaking. So before we discuss if Iran is actually going to be playing in this World Cup, we do have to acknowledge that the U.S. men's national team played 2 friendlies in September. Supposedly, allegedly, these have been reported that this happened. You had a 2-0 loss to Japan in Dusseldorf, Germany, and then a 0-0 draw against Saudi Arabia, a match in which literally 0 people looked like they wanted to play soccer, including the people who still looked decent. Obviously, this was really bad. These 2 performances were not what you wanted to see heading into the World Cup. I think more specifically, the Japan performance was alarming, but could be excusable by a number of things. To me, that Saudi Arabia performance was most disheartening because as a team, you knew you needed to rebound from a bad performance against Japan. And you didn't, at all. Which of these 2 was more concerning to you?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. I think the Saudi Arabia match, simply because we know, or I guess we know, but there's been talk about that, there wasn't a lot of preparation for Japan. It was almost like, we're going to play them and just work on our stuff regardless of what happens. I guess failing to realize that it's going to be nationally broadcasted and people are going to watch it. I don't know. But when you have just kind of a punch in the face, you want to have a bounce back game, and we didn't. And truthfully, I was on a cruise, stuck on a boat, stuck 2-3 extra days because of the hurricane. So I didn't even get to watch it till I got back, and YouTube TV messed up, didn't even record it. So I had to find grainy highlights, and I
That's all
wasn't
this
happy
game
with what I
deserved.
saw. And that's the thing. I realized pretty quickly after seeing all the reports and reading articles and stuff that maybe it was a good thing that I missed it. But you would have hoped that there would have been a response, and there wasn't. And I don't know if we can point to tactics, just energy? Was it coach? Like I don't know. I don't feel like that is either one of the friendlies were indicative of who we are and how we can play. Clearly, we've seen much better performances. I don't know what to think of it. I'm not happy, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Japan performance to me is they're both inexcusable, but it's more reasoned when you think, okay, Japan plays a very different style of play than we've seen in a while. It's the same type of style of play that gave us so much trouble against like the Canada played, right? They play very similarly to the way Canada wants to try to press you, attack you, create turnovers, and get forward. They're better at it than Canada, and especially the press. And we didn't do well. So you can look at it and go, okay, we're clearly just not good against pressing teams. There are a lot of reasons that could be. I think that, to your point, there seemed to be very little preparation, and it goes very much against how I think every other U.S. team has kind of lined up for a World Cup, right? I mean, it's one thing to want to work on yourself. I think that's very valid, and wanting to focus more on what you need to do, and the style of play you want to play, the characteristics with which you want to play. And we've seen this throughout Berhalter's tenure, right? We all remember that Mexico friendly back in 2019 where we got absolutely just kicked off the pitch.
Yeah.
Because we stuck to playing out of the back and stuck to trying to build possession and all these things. Well, it wasn't like we were trying to do that either. Like that was the thing. It wasn't like we were so committed to possession-based soccer, because we weren't even building out of the back. We were just flat out bad, incapable of passing from one player to another at many points in time. And that's concerning because it didn't fix itself against Saudi Arabia. Like if you played poorly against Japan, oh, it's a pressing team, I get it. Fine. We're not good against the press. I'm not concerned because I don't think any of the teams in our group are going to necessarily execute that type of a game plan. Do you agree?
I mean, I think England's going to get after us just because
Sure, fine.
they are who they are. But yeah, I mean, Wales, Iran, it's going to be probably an ugly match. It's going to resemble a lot of championship style soccer, I think.
Yeah.
I will say, like, I got two things with the Japan game specifically. One, does Berhalter not realize, like, the players are working on stuff, they're trying to get better. You got to do that as a coach. And one of the things that you can work on as a coach is in-game adjustments. And if you see that we are playing into their hands, like we're doing exactly what they want us to do, why not change it up? Again,
Yeah.
it's the whole thing of maybe, well, maybe he was just saying results, screw it, whatever. We're just going to work on our things. But, you want to roll into the World Cup on poor performances like that, unless, again, and I'm probably giving him way too much credit. Maybe he's playing 4D chess and he's like, look, let's just intentionally tank these. Not telling the players that way the players just have this unbelievable desire to correct it. I don't know. I'm just all I'm doing is trying to come up with anything that I can to make sense of what the mess we watched. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I have nothing. I got nothing.
I think what bothers me is that the passing numbers weren't drastically different, right? We still passed at about the same rate, about 85% completion, 430-ish passes per game. Those aren't terrible numbers. Even against Japan, we had more possession than Japan. Like these are things that are not bad. The problem continues to remain, though, is we're not creating any chances whatsoever. Like we can have striker discussions all we want. It doesn't matter who's striker when you only get 2 chances a game, which is kind of the point of the XG discussion that's going around on the USMNT Twitter right now of like, yes, we can talk about is a player a good finisher or not. and like XG is a valid way to track if they're more likely to finish a chance than not. Sure, these are good, but like when you only get 2 to 3 chances a game and not all of them even go to your striker, it doesn't matter what your XG or your conversion rate is, or who your striker is and how good of a finisher they are. It doesn't, because they're not even getting good chances. Even we can talk about Jesus Ferreira's miss against Saudi Arabia all we want, right? The first couple minutes, he gets a cross in, times it a little poorly. It also was not like the most clear-cut chance, but it was within the first, 10 minutes of the game?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, in theory, you can be ruthless, cutthroat, and expect all strikers to be at the same level and say a striker has to finish that. Sure. We didn't create another chance like that the rest of the game. So yes, in theory, you can say, oh, he has to finish that, whatever you want to say about that. But like, he could have done better. I believe he should have put it on frame. But we only created like one of those chances the whole game. That's not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. When you have that opportunity, if let's say you're playing a really high level opponent, let's say we're playing England, and chances are going to be few and far between, then yeah, I mean, all the talk about having a guy who can finish those chances and who's clinical, all that kind of stuff, absolutely. But that's not the biggest concern. The biggest concern is the lack of chances, like you said. If you're only getting one chance, then if you don't have Lewandowski or Holland, then
Right.
you're screwed, because no other strikers, like, teams don't just have world-class strikers sitting around. Like, that's not the way it works. So yeah, we can sit there and talk about, oh, Ferrer's got to finish that, Sarge's got to finish that, Pepe's got to finish that, PFOG, whatever. Like, that's great. None of our strikers are world class and are
No.
going to finish every freaking opportunity they have. It's just not going to happen. So the biggest concern, like you said, is just lack of chances. And I think I feel like it's just top down. It's Greg saying, like, this is how we want to create chances, and it's a very specific way. And the thing is, like, if that's not there, what's plan B?
I know.
They
There is
don't
no
have
plan
it.
B. There's
There's
no plan
nothing.
B. And the
It's
problem
so
that we saw
frustrating.
throughout both of these is that Greg Berhalter's plan A seems to be, and now granted, there were other guys hurt, so maybe it's not true that this is necessarily his plan A, but it seems like his plan A is Walker Zimmerman and Aaron Long. And I can't tell you how disastrous that is. I'm sorry. Aaron Long is not an international starting level center back. He's just not. He may have been 2 years ago. I will completely agree with that. He has had a major leg injury since then and has not recovered since that. And that's just the fact of the matter. And it's okay to say that, Greg. It's okay to say that your favorite person in the entire world isn't the same player that they used to be before they're injured. We're Atlanta United fans. We're going to have to deal with that with Miles Robinson next year. We don't know what Miles Robinson is going to be, but we've also dealt with that from a Joseph Martinez standpoint, who was by far the best finisher in the league when he got hurt because Nashville played on a crappy natural grass surface. Even though we always want to blame turf, it was Nashville's crappy natural grass surface that tore up Joseph's knee. And ever since then, he hasn't been the same because physically he hasn't been able to recover. It's taken too long to recover. Whatever you want to say, it just hasn't been the same. It's clear that Aaron Long is not the same player he was before his Achilles injury. He's a little bit slower. He's not quite as good defending higher up the field, which are the things that Greg Berhalter thinks he's good at. And this is what bothers me, as again, Greg looks at certain qualities. Oh, well, he can do this, but he's not good at it. I can throw a baseball. That doesn't mean I'm going to throw a strike.
Right. Well, and can 2 years ago is not can now, like you said.
Exactly.
And that's, I mean, that you're 100% right, because yeah, 2.5, 3 years ago, he played at a high level. I mean, and people talk about, oh yeah, we still have it less. That's fine. but he was a very athletic, very good defensive
Yeah.
center back. Period. Like it's just you can argue it if you want. That's fine, but he was. And you're right. He's not the same. He's not the same. And all the hopes and wishes in the world can't make that happen. And so why not play? Because I mean, and we're going to talk about our roster in a little while. We all know he's going to be on it.
Yeah.
He's probably
Greg's
going to
favorite
start.
person in the entire world.
I mean, we've seen, and here's the thing. Here's the thing. We've made this comment about Greg and his boys, right? Trap, Yule, Leggett, Roldan.
They've been dropped at some point.
He has
I
dropped them,
agree.
but it has been over a massive amount of time. And he just brought Long back in. Has there been enough time for Long to prove to Greg? Because apparently that's what he needs. He needs to be proved that it can't happen. My concern is the fact that Greg doesn't have enough disbelief.
Right.
Does that make sense?
No, that's exactly there has been overwhelming evidence about all those guys that you mentioned that they're not good enough anymore. Trap, Ewell, those are great examples of guys who just proved that they weren't good enough, right? You look at even a guy like Jossie Zardes, who proved he just wasn't good enough. Even though but Greg's problem is he believes in these guys even though they haven't shown anything to believe in. And, he trusts them. It's not that he thinks that Jossie Zardes was good enough to just be a part of the roster. He thought Jossie Zardes was good enough to start him away at Canada, the toughest match we played in World Cup qualifying.
Yeah,
right? It's not that he just doesn't think that Aaron Long is good enough to be on the roster. He thinks he's good enough to start a World Cup match tomorrow.
And here's the thing I don't understand. Like, I understand as a coach, you don't want to be the type of person that makes your players play scared. Because if they're playing scared, like if I make a mistake, I'm out, then all they're going to do is make mistakes. Like you don't want that. So you want to make sure your players are playing with a level of confidence and belief and they feel like they're backed. But with Greg, it's almost like it's too much.
Yet he dismissed Haji Wright after one bad performance.
Right.
In a monsoon in El Salvador. Like it just like they're too different, and we can obviously we can say in the September window, like Chris Richards wasn't there, Cameron Carter-Vickers wasn't there, so maybe those guys are ahead of Long on the depth chart. I think they definitely are. You and I, but you still had Mark McKenzie there, who could have started a game.
I think if Greg could, I think he would start Richards over Long. I think he would.
I think he would too, because he started him in qualifying many times. I think that I think it's not unfair to say we have actual information to say that Richards and Zimmerman would be a starting center back pairing in the World Cup. I think that's fair. I agree.
I could see him doing that, and I hope that's what he does. But I mean, would any of us be shocked if, was it November 21st?
Yeah.
We see Zimmerman and Long on the lineup sheet starting together. I wouldn't be shocked.
No, I'd be disappointed, but I would not be shocked.
Absolutely. And then, we're all going to sit there and lose our minds about it. And then they're going to both play like the most incredible matches of all time. Because that's how it works.
I genuinely hope so, but there's no evidence to show that they will. That's the problem with Long. Especially them together.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, those are the limitations. And we saw in the Japan game, I mean, we're talking Japan. We're not talking about England. We're talking about Japan. And they couldn't do it.
Yeah. I mean, look, England has a guy named Harry Kane who's going to be running at us.
Is he good?
I watch the Premier League a lot, and I get told that he's good every frickin' Saturday. He's good at converting penalty kicks. I'll give him that much. But you got him. You've got guys like Rashford. You've got Sterling. You've got, Saka. You've got England. No offense, guys who are just
They're so
Yes.
deep. They're so deep. It doesn't matter who they throw at us. Every single player on England's roster and their second roster are better than what Japan threw at us.
Yeah.
And
That's
we
not
couldn't
unfair.
do it versus Japan.
Yeah. Let's move off the Aaron Long subject because we know he's going to the World Cup. It's just a matter of it. Just it is. Were there any other players who you felt really in when evaluating it from a neutral perspective? Was there anyone who you think played themselves out of a World Cup roster?
Knowing Greg, I don't think so.
I
I don't
also
think there's
don't
anybody.
know. Yeah, I agree.
I'm not saying that there weren't players that didn't live up to the expectations that you had of them, but knowing Greg, I don't think anybody like burned their ticket per se.
So what bothers me is in this camp, you had the return of Gio Reyna, while also Tim Weah wasn't there because he was hurt, and we can't have all of our players healthy together. Obviously, we know this. So
Yeah,
even
nice
with,
things.
I know, even with Gio Reyna obviously coming back, you still saw Jordan Morris play. And I don't think you still saw Paul Areola play. Neither of those guys looked great. I think Areola looked better than Morris, personally. I know some people were ragging on Areola for like crosses to no one, and my response would be like, well, because it's not his fault no one was making runs into the box. This is another systematic problem that Greg's system keeps producing is not enough runners in the box. But, hey, whatever. Like Areola played fine. He decently beat guys, got open, got crosses off, and that's his job. Like his job is not to go, oh, well, darn, no one's in there to put a cross into. Like, no, your job is to cross the ball once you've done that. Sorry, it is. Tim Weah is a better crosser of the ball. Gio Reyna is a little bit more creative and probably would have thought, no one's there, I'm going to keep it. But like Paul Areola did his
And
job.
has the ability to do it.
Yes,
Areola,
exactly. Yeah.
He's doing it because he's like, like this is my job. Like you said, I'm going to get down there and I'm going to cross the ball because that's what I'm supposed to do. If you're not there, that's your job. Where Reyna's like, okay, I've got the ability to pull this back.
Reyna fixes the fact that our system doesn't get guys into the box because he can hold possession a lot longer.
Right.
Like that's still a systematic issue that we're not getting enough runners into the box to receive a cross. But I just thought Morris was really unimpressive in his appearance against Japan. And I do think that Morris might be the guy who gets left off, which again sucks because had you asked me this, 2 years now, he obviously also coming back from a leg injury, an ACL tear again. It sucks that injuries happen, but you cannot assume the player is going to be the same that they were before the injury. You just can't. And unfortunately,
it doesn't matter how much you like them.
Yeah.
An injury is an injury, and the result of what happens is the result of what happens, regardless of how nice of a person they are, how much of a roommate or a locker room guy they are. Like, because I was always a fan of him because he made things happen. He was super direct. He was kind of a bulldog. But the last few performances we've seen from him haven't shown that.
Neither of them have been good. The only thing Morris has done right is score against El Salvador.
I was about to say that. I mean, just the disgusting game that we played in. But my thing is, he was the sub that went in. But like, there are other guys that like. Why would you not bring a PFOC if you're playing in a game that is disgusting? I would much rather Jordan Morris did a fantastic job and he's really good at that. But guess who's better? Jordan PFOC.
Yeah, this is the issue is
you don't need to bring him for that, I guess.
Right. If you have to bring in a backup winger, because that's what Morris is, to have an impact on the game, you're starting probably, and we will get to our rosters, I promise. But I think you and I both would probably start Pulisic and Weah as our wingers, right? That's probably our first choice starters. But the backups are Aronson and Reyna. Not even Areola and or Morris. They're not the backup. They're not the number two. So you're telling me that we're relying on a third string winger
Mhm.
to possibly come into a game in a World Cup. Like that's not even what I don't that doesn't sit well with me. So for me, I thought Morris played himself off the roster. I thought Areola has played himself off the roster. I thought he looked okay against Saudi Arabia. Like I'm not going to say he was good. That's not my point. Um, I don't see how you bring either of those guys. The problem also though is like I don't think like a Malik Tillman or Luca De La Torre were super impressive either. You know, everyone was bad.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. Like, there's sometimes where the match is just it overshadows any type of player or individual talent that there is. Like, it's just sometimes it's ugly and it's ugly and it's going to stay that way. But and I have, like I said, we'll talk about our rosters, but a Malik Tillman is the type of player that I'm not going to rely on him to start. He's so young,
No,
but we have seen some magic from him on the field, and it doesn't matter how old you are. Sometimes those individual abilities can give you value as a 25th, 26th man on a World
yeah,
Cup roster. Uh, Obviously, speaking for this World Cup with it being expanded, but that can give you some space there because we're trailing a goal with 10 minutes to go. I mean, we saw the header that Malik Tillman scored, where he, climbed the escalator and smashed it home. Then we saw him beat 5 defenders and slot at far post. Like those are individual moments that I say give you value,
yeah,
whereas a Jordan Morris, yeah, you can throw him on late, but he's relying on others' service to make something happen. Does that make sense?
yeah. And I
But
think he used to be able to
he's
make things happen. It just doesn't work
yeah,
that way anymore.
yeah,
And
because he doesn't have the speed to get around the edge like he used to.
yeah,
He's not as quick. But that's the thing. Like he used to be able to do it, but it's he's not there. And then even his like the El Salvador thing, like I'm super happy that it happened. Obviously, um, it was an incredible moment, but it, every other aspect of him being on the field just it doesn't do it for me anymore. So yeah, I'm with you. I think he's out um, simply because I think Areola, if you're talking Morris and Areola fighting for one spot, I think Areola gets the bump because he does a little more. He's got a little more work rate on the field
yeah,
defensively.
that's fair. Um, I'm still, you know, we can have the stance that like no, roster spots 20 through 26 aren't that important anyway, which I think is a fairly valid thing. But I still want the best players in camp in case things
Oh yeah,
happen. Like that's the whole point that I come back to is you still want your 26 best or the best collection of players, and I don't think that Morris or Areola makes your collection of players better. The
the
last guy that I want to talk
23rd,
about for yeah right
23rd man in
yeah
2014 played
yep
a big role.
um, I mean he scored
Yeah.
the last player I want to talk about, and I don't want to rag on him too much, was Sam Vines. He did not look ready for it. I am a pro Sam Vines person because he's a left back, and I think we need left backs.
Hmm. Hmm.
But he wasn't really on the radar. I don't think. Well, maybe he was on the radar, but he wasn't close to the roster. I think he needed a very good performance in that September window, and he just didn't have it. I also think it's fair to say that like everyone was bad. So if you yourself aren't up to task and everyone else around you is bad, it's not going to be good for you. But I don't think we have to worry about Sam Vines going to the World Cup. Do you
No,
agree?
I mean, it's probably not going to happen, but I think he was brought in to be given an opportunity to play himself in.
Yeah.
But then it's like, you know,
I mean, he was
if
not
you're gonna
good.
give if you're going to give him an opportunity to shine and try to play himself in, then put him in in a position to succeed.
Yeah.
It's like that didn't even happen. So I don't know. I think the second half um, from the Japan game, he was a little bit better, but it, it was a little too little, too late.
Yeah, I agree with that. We'll move on. Let's talk about our rosters for the World Cup. And like we said, we're going to have 26. I'm not going to put any real limits on player group numbers. Like you can bring as many as you want. The only one is that you have to have exactly 3 goalkeepers because I think we all agree that 3 goalkeepers is what the number is. After that is whatever you think is the best roster to make it up. So
Yeah.
I'll let you go first. Who are your 3
Mhm.
goalkeepers?
It's Turner, Stefan, and I would bring Horvath, but
Okay.
I think Greg's gonna bring Sean Johnson.
I'm gonna go Turner, Stefan, Johnson, and to me the third goalkeeper is your lifetime achievement award sometimes, right? And I think Sean Johnson
Go with
has
that.
been a much more vital part of this team throughout qualifying. He is still the reigning MLS Cup MVP at this point in time. Um, Over the weekend, he gave up a really bad goal against Montreal, but also had 2 like insane saves. I don't think there's tangible differences between Horvath and Johnson
Sure.
overall. But I'm going to bring Johnson just because I think you give him the hey, thanks for being here for a long time.
Hey, that's fair, and I have no problem with it. I like Sean Johnson,
Yeah,
so
I mean Horvath is the same age group of the Turner and Stefan guys, so like
mhm,
those can still be your 3 going forward.
sure.
Um, Johnson's not going to a World Cup after this, so bring him. I don't.
Yeah.
If he has to play a World Cup game, I'm no less concerned than I would be with Ethan Horvath.
Mhm.
That's just me.
I'm good with that.
Okay, so slight difference of opinion there, but like third goalkeeper is
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
Okay, let's go center backs. So we'll split up the defenders between center backs and fullbacks. But who are your center backs?
Okay, so, etched in stone is Walker Zimmerman. Um, Chris Richards, I mean, he's there as long as he's fit. I'm pretty sure Berhalter's already said that. As long as he's
Yeah,
fit, he's going. Um, and then it's Aaron Long's 100% going. If we're talking about what Greg wants, not what we want, Aaron Long's going, so he's 3. And then the 4th, it's a toss-up between who's playing the best between EPB, Mark McKenzie, and Cameron Carter-Vickers.
yeah. I think I would bring Zimmerman, Richards, CCV, and I would bring. I agree with you that Aaron Long is going right. So to answer your question, I'm bringing CCV if he's healthy. I think he's playing consistently the best,
Mhm.
and has a really good body of work of a very like consistent level of play. He's been in that championship level for a very long time. I don't say very long time, but like a while, playing very well.
Mhm.
So I think you are very aware of what he offers. However, I'm going to throw a wrinkle into this and say, and I'm going to eat my words from about a year and a half ago. Tim Ream, bring him up.
There's no way.
I
I'm
know, I
with you.
know.
I would love it. If there's no chance. I mean, I say there's no chance.
What if
It's
you
not like we're
bring
talking about
Tim Ream and Walker Zimmerman, but you just don't tell people that you switched them out because they're the exact same looking dude?
they're both 4. Uh, yeah,
You also get him Chris Hemsworth as well. He just happens to be on the team. Like, yeah, it's Walker
I
Zimmerman right there.
yeah, it's like the Hemsworth brothers, like,
Yeah,
they all look the same. No, here's the thing about Tim Ream. I say there's no chance, like, we're talking about John Brooks here. We're not talking about John Brooks, we're talking about Tim Ream. There's a chance, but I feel like if it was gonna happen, he would have been in the September camp
I agree. I agree.
because he was playing well enough to have earned it and didn't get
Yep.
the call, so I don't see it happening. But, to the CCB point, and we've seen Greg do it before. He's put on, like, an EPB, um and have 3 center backs on the field
Yeah.
to close out a game, like you're protecting a lead, I wouldn't be mad about throwing a CCV on the field with 10
Yeah.
minutes, 15 minutes to go and say, "You do not let them score.
Yeah.
I don't give a crap about possession." Like, he's a monster. He really is. So, I think if we're talking longs going and it is between CCV, EPB, and McKenzie, I'm with you. I do think it's going to be CCV.
Yeah. I think realistically, I'm with you. I think at CCV is that fourth one with Long, Richards, and Zimmerman as your four center backs. But I'm just saying I would rather have Tim Ream than Aaron Long.
Oh, I would too.
One of them is playing better right now.
He's been playing phenomenal.
Also, one will be playing up until the World Cup, which is more than we can say for Long and Zimmerman, to be quite honest.
So dumb.
Um,
Half our roster.
I know. Who are your fullbacks? And you don't have to differentiate between left or right back. Just give me your fullbacks. So we did four center backs, but I think it's fair. Who are your
Well,
fullbacks?
I think it's going to be Destin A. Rob as your two starting fullbacks, and then I think Scally's earned it. He's played well. He was very energetic when he came in with his little substitute cameo, and he can play both sides. So I think he adds value on top of his play. And then I think Yedlin's going, man. Not because I want him to. We watched him. He's playing with Inter Miami now. And how long has he been a professional? 700 years.
Yeah.
And he still can't track a back post runner. Like he checks his shoulder, sees the run, and still gets scored on. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. But he's going. I think he's going. Well, you know what? I could see, now that I've said this out loud, I could see Cannon going over Yedlin simply because Cannon can play that right center back, quote unquote, spot when
That we
Greg
played
needs
like
it
one
more.
time in a friendly.
Right. Exactly. But you know how Greg is. Like, if we
Yeah.
need to do it, you know. So I could see Cannon over Yedlin just because of that reason.
Okay. Who else do you have going fullback wise?
Those are it. That's all I got.
Okay.
Just fair.
Okay. Interesting.
You have 5?
I'm gonna go through this with you, and we'll see.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm definitely bringing Dest.
Yeah.
Definitely bringing A-Rob.
Yeah.
I am bringing Joe Scally.
Yep.
I think there's your cover at both positions. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he's a great left back, but no one's good enough behind Anthony Robinson. Anyone behind Anthony Robinson is not. They're not good enough. Bello, no.
Either.
Vines,
Bello,
no.
Vines, Paredes is too young.
Juwan Jones, no. Paredes, no.
100%.
So like, Scally at least is like, yeah, he's there.
Yeah. And he's playing big minutes in the Bundesliga. I can trust him.
Yes.
Yep.
I think Yedlin goes for sure.
Yep.
It would not surprise me though for him to bring both Cannon and Yedlin.
Okay. So Cannon and Yedlin. Okay.
And I will give Yedlin a slight advantage that if needed, we could put him at right wing and it would be okay. Like
I have no problem with it, and he is the only person who has World Cup experience. That's why I think
that's the reason I think Yedlin goes over Cannon.
But my God, I can see, like, I can just picture right now, you know, him just staring at the ball watching, and watching Raheem Sterling slip behind him and cut in. Like, oh my God, it drives me insane.
So I'm up to 12 spots now, and you're at 11. You've
11.
had 3 center backs, 4 fullbacks, 4 center backs. 3 goalkeepers, 4 center backs, 4 fullbacks. I'm at 3 goalkeepers, 4 center backs, 5 fullbacks. So I'm at 12. So I have fewer spots to go with. So let's move to the center midfield. If you wanted to delineate between defensive and attacking mid, whatever, but like, who are your center mids?
It's Tyler Adams. I mean, 100%. Weston, Musa, De La Torre, Kellen Acosta, simply because there's no other backup 6, and he's the only one who's proven that he can do it. And then here's where it gets kind of tricky. I've got Malik Tillman.
Okay.
Simply because of, I think Berhalter likes him. I really do. I think Berhalter likes him. And like I said, if he's a 25, 26 guy on the roster, you're not counting on him too much. But what he can give you, if you're chasing a game,
Mm-hmm.
you can play him as a super attacking 8, you can play him as a 10, you can put him as a second striker. Like, you just tell him with 10 minutes left, "Buddy, go get a goal," and just let him work, because if you're chasing, sometimes desperation's there, and he's got he has proven and shown that he has some of those tricks up his sleeve. Um, and then I have a question mark because I'm not sure what Berhalter's gonna do, but I would bring Georgi Mihailovic. But it's not gonna happen. Like, we all know it's not gonna happen.
We're putting him on there because I think you and I both agree that we'd like to see Georgie out there.
Not
So
enough
is
yet.
that 7 midfielders?
That is
So you said Adams
Adams,
Acosta, McKinney,
Acosta, McKennie
Musa,
Musa,
De La
De La
Torre.
Torre, Tillman is 6.
It's for sure.
And
So that's
then
your for sure 6. And then you're saying you're also
I've got
bringing,
Tillman,
yeah. And then you're saying
and then I have a
Mihailovic is
question
7.
mark and I would
Okay.
put Mihailovic, but I just don't know what Greg's gonna do there.
I don't think Greg brings Mihailovic, but I respect
No.
your opinion that you want Georgie Mihailovic at the
There's no
World Cup.
chance he's going. There's no chance he's going, but
Yeah.
Mihailovic has earned it. He's silky smooth on the ball, and I've just really grown to respect his game since he's been playing for Montreal. I really like the kid.
I'm going with only 6 because I think you have enough cover at the guys I'll bring as wingers who could play midfield if you needed. But Adams
100%.
Acosta are for sure,
Mhm.
for sure, right? McKinney Musa for sure, for sure.
Yep.
So then I'm bringing De La Torre and Tillman, and that's my 6. I don't think there's any. I love Mihailovic.
So you're not going 7.
I'm not going 7. I'll do 6 because again, if needed.
Well, but you also have an extra fullback.
Right. So this is why I'm bringing an extra fullback.
Yep.
I also think of it as I can bring. So when we get to the attackers, there are 2 to 3 attackers that you could pull into that midfield position that I'm not super worried about. So okay. So I have 6. You have 7/6, but we're even now. We both got 18. So we have what? 6 attackers that we can bring, right? I think that's how math works. 18 minus 6. Is that 8? There we go. Math. I work with words, people. So from when it comes to an attacking standpoint, let's talk about strikers last.
Okay.
So list the wingers that you have.
Pulisic, Reina, Weah, Brendan Aronson.
Okay. So that puts you at 22. Do you have any other wingers that you're bringing?
No, because I'm not bringing Areola. That's why I have a question mark for midfield.
Yeah.
But I think you've kind of talked to me because I wasn't thinking about Aronson, Reina. You could drop Ferreira. Pulisic can play centrally if you wanted to move him to a 10 role. Like, you're 100% right. There's a lot of cover from there.
I'm not mad at
that can
Mihailovic because
drop.
Mihailovic could play in theory on the wing too.
But that's
so like
why.
I'm
That's
with
why I
you,
looked
like,
at it
here.
because Mihailovic, I could play him as the 8. I can play him as a winger.
Yeah.
I have, future peeking into it. Sargent as one of our strikers. He can also play on the wing.
Yeah.
So that's where I've got the 5th winger.
But this is where I agree with you. Like, we don't need to bring a superfluous
Right.
Areola or Morris, who, in my opinion, aren't going to physically add anything to a game, right? They're not going to give you anything that like you have to bring. So, okay.
Exactly. That said, Areola is 100% going. We know that. So.
Yeah, I think he is. Okay, so you're at 22.
22.
Okay, I'm going to also agree with you in principle. I'm going to bring Pulisic, Weah, Aronson, Reina. I don't think there are any other wingers out there that I go, we have to bring them in, right? I could see Morris and Areola getting a look. I just don't think that your third straight, Like, that's the thing about, like, yes, I brought like 5 fullbacks. I don't think there's any reason any other place in the field to bring on multiple. Like, we're talking 3 deep at a position at that point. I don't think that's useful.
26 is a heavy roster, and it
Yeah,
allows you to bring on, like for me, a Tillman. He is a
exactly.
luxury
Tillman would not
of
have made
the
this roster. Yes.
right. You have 3 extra players to kind of just throw them in there.
Yeah.
You could just bring a guy. You have no plans on playing him,
Right.
but you want him there. It allows you to do that. Um, Tillman is one of those for me.
So I think we're both now stuck with 4 strikers. Am I correct?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
we're just bringing all the strikers, is what we're doing.
Yeah, it's Sargent, which he's my starter, by the way, and then Ferreira, Pifak, and Pepe. You bring them all because they all offer so many different things. You can drop Ferreira in the midfield, Sargent can play striker on the wing, and then you've got a Pifak and a Pepe. Pepe's a very well-rounded striker that can do what Berhalter wants,
Yeah.
and then if you're trailing a game, who better than to throw on than a Jordan Pifak?
Right.
I
Right.
think they just give you so much cover.
I think PFOC for me is the one that I have to bring because, and this has kind of been the narrative with PFOC, is like, I'm not saying he's the best striker that we have, but he's the only striker that we have that can do what he does, which is score at a
Yeah,
high rate with his
he is a
head,
goal scorer.
with it. Yeah. And the only other person that I see on our roster that we have like that is Walker Zimmerman. I'm not even joking.
No, I know.
Like,
Absolutely. You wanna talk about
like,
aerial threats and
yeah,
just
like,
danger in the box?
so if you're talking about
Yeah.
potentially needing a goal against Iran on the final match day or whatever, needing, you have a chance to maybe go for it against England, and you're talking about possibly having Walker Zimmerman, Weston McKennie, and Jordan Pifak in the box against Harry
Mhm,
Maguire, man, that's like
mhm.
7 goals right there.
Easily. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
But I'm with you.
Absolutely.
Because I also agree with you that Sargent could play on the wing if you needed, so you don't need winger depth there. I've already included a DeAndre Yedlin who could play right wing if we needed.
Mhm. Yep.
I also 100% agree. What if things aren't working? Like, that's the thing that Berhalter just doesn't seem to ever take into account is his
Yeah.
system not working. I mean, I know we could talk about Reyna and Aronson Blue in this, but like Jesus Ferreira as the 10, as the second striker or a 10 behind a Pepe or a Pifak or a Sargent also could be very useful. He's a very good player in that slightly withdrawn. That's why he plays so much for Berhalter, is because he does like to be more part of the midfield than a striker line. I mean, I would prefer Aronson or Reyna to play there. And in fact, Reyna's played a lot more on the left wing recently for Dortmund than he has
Mhm.
centrally or on the right. But whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I think Aronson is the preferred choice if we're doing that 10. But like, Ferreira's good at that as well and could combine. Like, I would rather bring 4 strikers who are, because I think you and I both agree Ferreira is still a very good soccer player.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to admit that Ferreira is good at soccer while also admitting he's maybe not the best striker for the U.S. men's national team. We can have 2
Look,
truths in time.
we are not France. Our players have limitations.
Yeah,
We aren't there yet, and that's okay. Like, it is what it is.
yeah. Our striker is not winning the Ballon d'Or because they're not Karim Benzema and they're not Robert
Yeah.
Lewandowski or
Yeah.
and Erling Haaland's not even going to the world. Like, we don't
We don't
have that.
we don't have one of those yet.
We don't even have an
We're gonna
Olivier Giroud.
we'll have a world-class striker in our lifetime. I promise you we
Yeah,
will.
it very well could
But
be that
it's
Sargent or Pepe, probably more likely, I think Pepe, becomes
Mhm.
that level of striker
Yeah.
by 2030.
Mhm.
I'm not guaranteeing that, but like, it's possible they do it. It's possible
There's
someone comes up like
possible
that.
someone else just out of the blue,
Yeah,
like it happens all the time. But it's not there yet, and our players have limitations,
right.
and it is what it is. Like, wishing and like, "Oh, it's just not good enough." Okay, well, you know what? You saying and pointing out that it's not good enough just fixed it all. Like, awesome.
Yeah.
Like, people get so upset. Like, it is what it is. Like, there's nothing we can do about it. So why sit there and lose our minds about the fact that Furr's not the best finisher? Okay, and so who else do you
It's
wanna
not
put in
like
there?
Sargent and Pepe are exponentially better. That's like, they're slightly better.
Right, and I think 100% Josh Sargent should be the starting striker for the World Cup.
Yeah,
If
and
he's healthy,
that's
he's
fair to
playing.
say.
But, like, it's not like we're playing it's not like Berhalter's playing Ferreira as our striker and putting, um, Luis Suarez on the bench.
Right. He's
Like,
putting
that's not
guys
what's
who, up
happening.
until recently, haven't even been really playing that well for their club. Like Pepe is starting to get into groove with Groningen. Love that.
Sargent, same.
Sargent's playing well for Norwich this season. Love that. P. Fox
Yep,
cooled off a little bit, but still the starting striker for the team leading the Bundesliga. Like
Bundesliga, yep,
that's
yep.
an important thing, and it's
But
still
again, all of
contributing.
that is recent type stuff that wasn't the case
Right.
during World Cup qualifying. And
Right.
so Berhalter was playing who he had at his disposal, who could do what he was asking. And yeah, Ferreira's a good soccer player. No, he's not the greatest striker in the world. Like, things can be two things. Total Soccer Show says it all the time. Things can be two things.
Yep.
He can be a good soccer player and not the best striker at the same time, and that's
Yes.
okay.
And but he can still contribute to this team in a number of ways, right? And
He
that's kind of
plays a
where
role,
yeah.
absolutely.
And same with Josh Sargent, I think contribute to this team in multiple positions. I think Pepe and PFOC are your most true, like, I am a striker. And that's okay. Bring them. Bring all four of them. I don't care. You have 26. This allows you to do
26.
that. And
Exactly.
they're still better than bringing a guy like Christian Roldan or Jordan Morris or Paul Arriola. They're still better players.
Well, my thing is, if you're not bringing all 4, which one are you leaving out, and how do you explain it,
And
right?
who are you bringing for that 26 player? Are you
If
bringing
you
Jordan
leave
Morris or Paul
people
Arriola? Why?
100%, yes,
Like
absolutely, that's
that's
gonna happen.
but why? What do they
It's
offer to the team?
eyes and vibes, baby, eyes and vibes. But
God.
you please, I wanna hear the excuse of why you're leaving the starting striker for the team that is leading the Bundesliga
Who has 3
off your
goals and
World
3
Cup
assists in
roster.
10 matches?
Please tell me why he's not there. Like, that's my thing. So just bring all 4.
I
So you
mean,
don't have to answer that question.
Pepe right now 5 goals and an assist in 6 matches for Groningen in the
Is
Eredivisie, where he didn't even start with this
is that
team this
good?
season. That's really
Is that
good.
good?
Sargent, similar. Hold on, got to pull him up. Similarly good numbers. I just PFOC 3 goals, 3 assists in 10 matches in the Bundesliga, which is, like I said, he's cooled off a little bit, but has been good. Championship so far for Sargent this year: 16 matches, 8 goals, 2 assists.
It's fantastic.
And then Ferreira just won Young Player of the Year, deservedly so. And is a guy who, like we said, does a whole lot more than just play striker. 18 goals this MLS season is not. I mean, it's not the most prolific goal scoring season that an MLS player has had, sure, but it's still pretty damn good.
And he's super young. People forget that. He is not a finished product by any stretch of the
Yeah, man
imagination.
is 21 years
Like,
old.
exactly. Here's the thing, people. The future is bright for American soccer. Hang your hat on that when you go to sleep at night. The future is bright. We aren't favorites. Like, it's okay. Let's go to this World Cup, show the world what our young kids can do as the youngest team in the World Cup by far. Let them get some experience and just enjoy the ride. Stop freaking out. Just enjoy the ride, you know?
Yeah. And I think the best way to do that would be bring the 4 strikers we talked about. It sucks that Arriola and Morris aren't going to make it, but they're part of that lost generation that I just don't have a whole lot of sympathy for. Like, that sounds really bad, but like,
It is
you're
what it
part of
is.
a generation that we don't necessarily need to be a part of this team.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, um, and
They're gonna go though.
I know one of them is going, possibly two. You know,
Yeah.
um, yeah, yeah, that's sad to think about. But um, that's our 26-man rosters. I'll put these graphics up on the Twitters underneath the post for the show, so you can comment and yell at us all you want. Before we get out of here, though, let's talk a little bit. We'll get into actual breakdowns of both the roster, which will come out November 9, and we'll talk about then like previews of each game. But like, just overall, where's your temperature on this team heading into the World Cup? You have a group against Wales, England, and Iran. What do you feel for this team right now?
Before the September friendlies, I felt good. The September friendlies have thrown a massive wrench into everything that
Yeah,
I
that's
had
fair.
thought. But I'm trying to just push it aside and say, I don't know what I'm telling myself. I'll tell myself anything. I'll just lie to myself. But my expectations are getting out of the group. Like there's no reason that it can't be the US and England getting out of that group. There's
I think
no
you
reason.
absolutely.
And so those are my expectations. If we get out of the group, I will be ecstatic.
Yeah.
And then everything after that is house money.
Yeah, I mean, I think the recipe to get out of the group is pretty simple. You get a win
Mhm,
and you get a
mhm.
draw.
Yep,
If
yep.
don't get me wrong, I think ideally you start your World Cup with a win against Wales.
Mhm.
If you do that, I feel very confident we get out of the group because Wales is the biggest contender to you getting out of the group. Hopefully you play well against England. I'll be hosting a really big watch party for that, so I hope we do well.
If
And then,
listen, if we draw England, I'll leave
if
them.
we draw England and England goes another World Cup without beating the US, we officially we're instilling Christian Pulisic as King of England or Prime Minister,
We
whichever one they don't
yes,
have at that point.
we own England at that point.
Yeah, there's a 97% chance England doesn't have is Prime Minister list by the time the World Cup runs around. They just installed a new one today, but that could last 3 weeks at their going rate. So if the British Prime Minister job is vacant and the US doesn't lose to England on November 25th, Christian Pulisic becomes Prime Minister.
We
I think
all
that's
become England
somehow a law.
citizens and we vote for Pulisic and then we denounce our citizenship.
But then you've got Iran, which is a very winnable game. I think Iran is the
Yes.
one game in this group that you absolutely cannot lose
We
because
can't, yeah,
I think England's
there
beating
can't be
them.
letdown.
Yeah, you can't because you have to understand that Wales and England will have already played them and probably beaten them. There are 6 points in this group that are very easily won, in my opinion. I think there's 4 points that you should absolutely get. Anything
4
else?
points is crucial.
Yeah.
I think if we go into the Iran match in the situation of just don't lose, I think we're in good shape.
Yeah.
If we go to Iran and it's we must win to get out,
I'm going to be
then
concerned.
I'm scared. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because you could very easily draw Wales, lose to England, and yes, you have to beat Iran. Okay, I still feel okay about that because Wales and England have to play their final match against each other, and that could just be a pub brawl. We're not quite sure how that's going to turn out at this point. But I'm not as confident on Wales as I think a lot of people are in a World Cup setting. That said, they've done pretty decently in their European tournaments as of late, but I think they're just a team that slightly getting over the edge of their glory days, if you know what
Well,
I'm saying.
their greatest player of all time is, you know,
Who also, by the way, is
playing.
going to be sitting out.
That's what I'm saying. He's playing not great, and he's going to be sitting.
Is
So
he even playing? Like the man did not
I don't.
play in
He's not playing a lot.
the last playoff game for LAFC. There's no guarantee he'll play either the Western Conference Final or MLS Cup Final. And
Either way,
regardless,
he's still
he's
sitting
going to
for
be
a while.
sitting for a couple weeks, and he won't be playing So
The thing is, regardless of whether he's playing or not, he's not playing at the highest level he's played at. Now,
no,
I get it. He's still Gareth Bale, but he's lost a few teeth at that point.
The final is November
Uh,
5th, apparently kicking off right between the Georgia-Tennessee games. So have fun with that. And there's no guarantee that LA is making the final, first off.
yeah. He's sitting for at least 2 weeks. Yeah.
And he didn't play the last match. When's the last time that man played? Live air, I'm looking this up. I apologize, everyone.
I mean, regardless, like he's not played a ton.
He
He's
wasn't on
not
the
going to
match
be
roster ever. Yeah, that's right. He wasn't on the roster even for
for
the
the quarters.
last match, the quarterfinal,
Oh,
or I guess the semifinal is technically what it is. The
yeah.
conference semifinal, whatever. The last match he played was that's not who I'm looking for. That's who I'm looking for, Bale. The last match he played was October 9, the last match of the season. No, sorry, the last match he played was October 2nd. He played 5 minutes against Portland.
Wow. So yeah, I
So
mean,
there's no
and
reason to
that's
believe
their best
he'll
player.
play significant minutes. You know, Aaron Ramsey's playing a decent bit at Rangers, but like we're gonna have a lot of players sitting. But so is
Here-
Wales.
Here's my thing. I look at Wales like I look at Mexico. I feel like they're very like as far as not the similar styles of play, but like if you look at like if we want to look at things like the FIFA video game and you look at stars and you look at uh, ratings and stuff, they're kind of in that same tier
Yes. Yeah.
of team. Um, Mexico might even be a little bit better as far as like technical skills and stuff,
No,
but
they are.
like,
But yeah.
but it's a winnable game. Like we've played well against good teams, so it's not unreasonable to think that we go out there and get 3 points first match of the World Cup. It's not unreasonable.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to happen. I know the boys are going to be feeling all tight. I can't even imagine the feeling that it's
If they
going to
were feeling
be.
nervous against Japan and Saudi Arabia for friendlies, I'm concerned about how they're going to be feeling
Oh,
against Wales to open up. But
God.
well, these are discussions we'll have closer to the World Cup. But yeah, I'm still high on the team. I think the team can get out of the group.
Yes.
It's just a matter of making sure that you're in the right state of mind to go out there and beat Wales. And if you go out with that mindset, you're going to get a positive result.
If we beat Wales, we're winning the World Cup. You heard it here.
I don't know about that, but if we beat Wales, I think it's very safe to say we get out of the group. And
We get out of the group,
that first
100%.
match is imperative. I mean, you look at the
Yes.
tournaments in which we've gotten out of the group, right? 2002, we beat Portugal.
Mhm.
2010, we started with the draw against England. 2014 started with a win against Ghana. Getting a result in that first game is imperative. You get a win in that first game, you're almost assured to go through. So it's going to be very important for us.
Ride the wave.
All right, last topic. U.S. Women World Cup draw has been released. We've got 2 out of the 3 teams we know we're playing. The third one is probably going to be Portugal, but we know we're playing Vietnam, Netherlands, and then a playoff team. A rematch of 2019. How do you feel about this draw as a whole, though?
I mean, it's hard not to like it, right? I mean,
Vietnam, a team you should beat. Portugal, a team that I think is very beatable.
I'll say this. My confidence in the U.S. women's national team has been waning as of late.
Yes.
That said, if we don't get out of this group, could it be the most massive failure in the U.S. women's national team history?
I mean, it absolutely, like, factually would be. We've never
It
not
has to be,
advanced
yeah.
from a group. We've never,
Yeah.
the worst
Yeah,
result we've had at a major tournament was losing to Sweden in the quarters of
in
the
the
Olympics, and
16.
that was like
Yeah.
a very just like fluke incident that I
Right.
think anyone can reason away of just like they got lucky that day. I don't think there's any chance we don't make it out of the group, to be quite honest. I think we're still
can't.
better than Netherlands, who are good but reached their peak at 2019. They've kind of downgraded a little
Right.
bit since then.
And we both have, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, this is for a whole nother podcast, and I've been talking about it
Yes.
a lot on the morning show with John Nelson when he's had me on. You're going from making 3 finals in a row. Could have been 3 World Cup titles in a row if penalty kicks go your right way.
Mm-hmm.
If you expect a team at any level to do that every 4 years, that just doesn't happen.
It's
right?
crazy.
Especially in a landscape where legitimately the rest of the world is catching up. And that is a positive. I'm tired of people acting like
massive positive. Yeah.
I'm tired of people acting like we also as a footballing nation, we are still so far behind all these other nations if they were to invest properly in women's soccer.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't have the infrastructure that they do, right? We don't have many women's professional academies, Anyway, that is a whole nother podcast. But yes, I get out of the group, make the semifinal. I think if you make the semifinal of this World Cup, it is a pretty decent World Cup that you can celebrate the last of a great generation of players and say, hey, congratulations.
Yes.
We've never not medaled at a World Cup. We've finished first, second, or third every time we've played. And I still think the rest of the world has a lot of catching up to do. As much as people love Spain, they've yet to win a knockout round of any tournament. Hold your horses on the sky is falling until we see what we look like against Germany in November. But those games, July 22nd against Vietnam, July 27th against Netherlands, and August 1st against a team that we'll find out later, probably Portugal. But a little fortunate, the kickoff times, I did math earlier today. It was not correct, but because I didn't include daylight savings time. Daylight savings time kickoff on East Coast will be 9 p.m., 9 p.m., and 3 a.m. So the 3 a.m. a little bit early, that's a bad, but 9 p.m. kickoff is pretty good. FIFA has recognized that it's good to put the U.S. in time slots where the U.S. market can watch. They did it for the men in this World Cup. They're doing it for the women next summer as well.
9 p.m. is not bad. 3 a.m. Listen, this last World Cup, if you were waking up at 4 a.m. to watch those games, I know I was.
Yeah,
it was rough days.
The fortunate thing is, hopefully that 3 a.m. game, I mean, I'll be up watching, but hopefully from a perspective of you can sleep in and watch it later, it'll be because we've sealed the group by then, hopefully.
That's a great point.
Yeah. I mean, if you're West Coast, though, those are great kickoff times. 6 and midnight. That's fantastic. So
That's not bad. That's not bad.
I mean, I hope to be there for the game, so I won't be worrying about that. But hey.
Ooh, okay.
Also, I love that we're only traveling. We go Auckland, Wellington, Auckland. We're completely on the North Island the entire time. We don't even have to go to some of the Christchurch or whatever the cities are on the South Island. I mean, that is great for travel purposes.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm jealous.
Yeah, we won't have to go to Australia until a semifinal or till a round of 16, excuse me, and then that's good. So anyway, all right, we've talked enough about things about something that don't even happen. But Caleb, thanks for joining me again. Follow him on Twitter at USMNT Corner or J Caleb Cook if you want some non-US soccer stuff. He is fully invested in the Georgia Bulldogs again this year. So if you want UGA takes, go there. Follow him on Twitter, though, USMNT Corner. Follow the podcast at Soccer for Us Pod. Catch me on some morning shows on the Soccer Down Here network. I'm filling in whenever John needs me. He's kind of soloing it as Jason still recovers from long COVID. Shout out, though, to Jason Longshore, a winner of the Gabby Award, which is the local Georgia newscast stuff. He won best color commentator. So congrats to Jason on that.
Absolutely.
Make sure you subscribe to Soccer Down Here so you get all the coverage. Thanks everyone for being here. I'm Bart. I'm out.